Well, greetings, everyone. As Sarah would say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Wherever you are, welcome to Right Here, Right Now. And thank you for joining us here on Soul Empowerment. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach and one of the hosts of this program. As you can see, there are two others here. There's actually three of us on this panel, but Gail has some personal stuff that she's dealing with today, and so she won't be joining us. So I'm going to start with you today. Sarah, would you please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you are, and what you do and why?
I'm Sarah Jane. I'm in the UK. What do I do? A mitt full of things. I'm the founder of Gift of Healing TV, the creator of Vocal Reiki, author, channel, speak light language, and I do it all because I love it.
That's a good reason to do it, I think. It's what you're called to do, right? It's what your internal essence, your magnif essence is being called to do. Well, thank you for bringing forth all that beautiful stuff, Sarah, and it's great to have you here as always. Scott, please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do? And why?
Hi, Scott Holmes from Boston, Massachusetts. I do Reiki, polarity, theta healing. I'm not going to try and match Sarah with all of her modalities, but also we write, as do we all. And in the same vein that I help people find their journey back to their heart. That's as simple and as complex and as multi-layered as that can get. So I thank you, and David, thank you for having us on.
Oh, well, it's my honor, you guys. I love having these conversations with you. That's why I do what I do. But it's funny. I always introduce myself as your life mastery coach. I don't really describe to people what it is I do. And most of the time, I guess lately, over the last few years, my focus has been shifting away from actual one-on-one coaching to group stuff, to presentations like this, and to writing. I've been doing a lot of writing over the last few years. But this year I decided to shift my focus a little bit, and I'm not going to be taking such a broad brush anymore. I mean, I'm still going to be focused on my life mastery paradigm, and that is going to be a part of what I do. But my belief is that all of us, every single living being, it has a purpose to express himself, herself, or itself in whatever authentic way that looks like. And for us humans, that's sometimes challenging, especially because we have to deal with the conditioning and the indoctrination that happens from outside of ourselves. We are told from a very young age that we're supposed to behave a certain way, live up to a certain standard, behave, check all these boxes and do all these things, and that's supposed to bring us happiness and joy and all the rest. Except most of us discover that path doesn't really work. And the reason it doesn't work is because we deny the truth of who we really are in the process. And so my focus now is to help people reconnect to that truth. And that's what my new program, Magnificence in Motion, is all about. And so I'm going to be, I'm not going to be promoting that right now, but that is why I'm doing it, because I think that helping people to get to the deepest truth of who they really are, to embrace it, to honor it, to own it, to express it, to experience it, and just to have it be something that they do, that to me is the path to happiness. So with all that said, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the live show or watching the recording, whichever it is you're doing. And today we're going to be talking about one of the things that we all tend to do come January 1st is create a whole bunch of resolutions. And I think most of us have discovered that those resolutions often don't get completed, or as I like to say, resolved during the year. They just kind of hang out there like Christmas tree ornaments, if you like. And so somewhere around end of January or maybe early February, we just take that tree down and put away those ornaments, and we forget all about the resolutions that we made and all the rest of it. But this year, we wanted to try something different. I think We already had a beautiful, beautiful session on December 30th about creating a divine and magnificent plan for the year. And it's basically the idea of creating an intention, a vision for the year. And so today, what we want to talk about is taking that intention and moving ourselves towards inspired action in order to make that intention and vision come to reality. So that's what the topic is today, from intention to inspired action. So I've spoken way too much already. Sarah, how would you like to start us off on this beautiful topic?
Well, sort of thinking about this, and every intention you have, if you don't put any action into it, to be perfectly honest, it's highly unlikely to ever happen. So, but okay, we work very much when we're working with the energy. Our intention is always for the highest good. But you're talking about the intentions for our own lives and the projects that we set up for ourselves. And I think sort of between us, we've got projects for more books and goodness knows what else. But if we don't actually take the action to make those intentions happen, those projects, that feel that energy and make it come to life. And if your intention is something, but you haven't got a passion for it, it's not going to happen. And the same goes with setting sort of your New Year's resolutions. If you actually haven't got a passion for what you're setting, it's not going to happen. But it's also about realizing that as much as we set an intention, there is a thing called divine timing. And as much as we can set an intention, as much as we can take the action, there are going to be times when it's not happening maybe as fast as you wish it to happen. There can be gaps, and you think, why is everything just stood still? That's aspects for me of divine timing.
I think that's beautiful. And one thing that you said that I just really want to come back and address, you talked about how we often set intentions with the highest good in mind. And now today we're focusing on our intentions for our lives. I think those are one and the same thing, especially if we are true to ourselves, if we're true to the essence of who we really are, then everything we do is going to be for the highest good, because then we are expressing that true essence in everything that we do. The other thing that you said that I really like is sometimes there's going to be gaps, and divine timing. That's a beautiful thing to remind us about. Sometimes the universe and ultimately our soul knows the deepest truth of what we want. And sometimes what we think we want up here doesn't necessarily correspond with what we want in our heart and our soul. And so sometimes it may seem like, wait a minute, this is what I want. How come I'm not getting it? Yeah, well, you have to understand that what's down here, you may not be allowing that to percolate up into your awareness. And therefore, you're going against yourself in some way. And that's why sometimes divine timing says, okay, you're not quite ready for this yet. So you need to kind of make an adjustment and realign yourself with the truth of who you are before it's going to happen in the way that you want it to. And the other thing that people need to understand is inspired action doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything. What are you talking about? Well, sometimes inspired action might be just pausing to reflect. Take a moment. You got to look where you are. I mean, you can't figure out where you want to go until you know where you are, right? So take the time to make sure you're clear about everything you need to know in this moment right now. And let that kind of inspire you to choose which course to take next. Scott.
Nicely put, by the way. A lot of people talk about manifesting when they talk about this kind of work. You hear it in all manner. Anywhere you go on the dial, it's about manifesting. And I get the feeling that they're selling sitting on the couch, wishing you had a Mercedes in the driveway, and somehow, some way, that will that will just suddenly appear while you're sitting on the couch, not doing anything.
Exactly.
Doesn't quite happen that way. And we all know that. And when we say intention, we talk about working toward. In working with clients, I've always asked them if they can move this much in the course of a day. If they can move that much further along toward what they're looking for. Setting an intention is wonderful because you have a place that you want to go. You have a path that you want to follow. Are we always able to follow it? No, because life has a habit of knocking you off course, right? But as long as you get up and you add that much more toward that intention, all of a sudden in a month, you're closer. All of a sudden in 3 months, you're almost there. While not changing. And change is that magic word that nobody likes, right? Nobody likes change. My sister said to me one time, well, nobody likes change. And I just had to laugh because we all change through the course of the day, through the course of an hour. We all have to change depending on what's in front of us. And I said, oh, no, I love change. She said, that can't possibly be true. I said, yes, I like things not to always be the exact same that it was. I don't like the repetition. I want to be challenged. I want it to be different so that I don't get into that somnambulist, wake up at 7 o'clock and I eat the same thing and I walk the same path and I never see anything else. For me, life is about seeing everything. And in order to do that, there has to be a different path. And that's where I think a lot of people get they get blocked because they want change. They want it to be different, but they don't really want to change what they're doing. They don't want it to be different. What's that old definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Right. Well, that's where you don't have to change. You just have to just twist a little or step aside a little, or you don't have to change. You can do the same thing, just do it slightly differently.
Just do it differently.
Just do it differently. It's not a change. It's just,
yeah.
You start off with your right foot.
I think that the reason most people don't like change is because of the noise it makes when it's in your pocket.
If we're going to get into dad jokes,
and besides, all those little pennies really aren't worth very much. You can't do much with pennies. But I think you're right about this whole manifesting thing. There's this whole, remember the book, right, and the movie, The Secret, and talking about what you focus on, you attract into your life, and the law of attraction, all that kind of stuff, manifesting and all that. And I think these are wonderful ideas for people to understand. But the truth of the matter is the law of attraction doesn't attract what you think about. It attracts what you are. And this is something most people don't even get. So if I'm thinking one thing, but my essence is 180 degrees opposed to that, then no matter what I think, I'm never going to attract that thing that I want. It's like another teacher that I had, I just really appreciated what he said. It's like putting on a new suit of clothes before you take a shower. You've got to get rid of the old stuff before you put the new stuff in place. He calls it tabula rasa, which means a clean slate. And I like that because it reminds me that, sure, I might want to change the way I think about something. I might want to focus more attention on something that I think is desirable. But if I have a core belief underneath that says, oh, I don't deserve money, or I don't deserve to have this, or I'm not worthy of this, or whatever, it's that subconscious belief that's going to take priority over anything that I try to put into my conscious mind. So I have to do some digging, get down underneath, find those old core beliefs, tear them out by the roots, and say, thank you so much. I'm sure you served me in some way before, but now I don't need you anymore. Clean out the garden before you start planting new seeds. That's really what we have to tell ourselves. And most people don't like to do that because that's work. That's work. Who wants to dig up the rocks and the weeds and everything else in the garden? I don't know too many people who like doing that, except maybe, those paid gardeners who get money because they do it. So anyway, I think what you said is really, really powerful and something that, people need to keep in mind. So I like this word inspired action because it has an implication of bringing the soul, the spirit into the conversation.
You talked about the transition, but in some cases it can be about a pause. Seriously, some of my best ideas come when I'm not at the computer and I can't write them down. It's just because I'm able to be out of, to a certain degree, the work process. Sort of with a new project that's coming on, I can be sort of lying in bed first thing in the morning, and it's suddenly this pops in, that pops in, the other pops in, and it's just like, because I haven't got into the daily process yet. And it's just like sort of sorting out how it's like, well, can I remember that when I can sit at the computer and write it down, please?
Right.
And I know
I
some
have the
people
same thing
say,
when I have a shower in the morning. That's when my best ideas come.
yeah, but I sometimes get it when I'm out for a walk. So I'm out in the local woodland, and and I'm not one of these people with these modern phones that I could suddenly decide to take it out and think, okay, I'll record this. So I can't do that. And that's my choice. And it's just like, I know that the right thoughts will come when I sit down to write it all out. And I'm so sure somebody will come up with something and nudge me when we're working together. And sometimes it's not just about what we do. We should be prepared to ask for support, for help, whatever word you want to use, because most of us can't do it all.
Well, and that's interesting, Sarah. I think you're absolutely right. First of all, I have a different perspective. I think we can do it all. We just can't do it all in the current form that we have here. And so this is one of the reasons that we have been empowered to reach out to other forums like this and say, hey, can you give me a hand with this? Or do you have a suggestion for how I might do that? People love being asked for their ideas and for their support, because it means to you they matter. If I never ask you for support, you probably have this opinion, he doesn't like me, he doesn't care about me, blah, 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 the stories that go on in mind. The truth of the matter is, most of us don't ask for help because we think it's a sign of weakness. When in fact, it's a great gift for the other person, and it's actually a sign of strength. It's a willingness to say, I don't think I can do this by myself. And I know that Sarah is really good at this. Sarah, can you help me with X, Y, or Z? Sarah can always say, yes, I will, or no, I won't. It doesn't mean she doesn't like me. It just may not be in alignment with what she's doing, or who she is. God, what do you say about that?
I've got a million thoughts on that one, but asking for help, that's amazing. Quick story, when my daughter first got sick, my wife and I were doing it all ourselves. We were going in and out of Boston, which is on any given day, on a Sunday morning is 45 minutes, and on any other day it's about 2.5 hours. So to get in and out, and we were going in and we were doing it ourselves because we didn't want to burden our families with any of that. And my aunt said, baloney, I'm going to drive you in tomorrow. We had the most awesome day that day going in to see my daughter, who was in the pediatric ICU, because my aunt had just kind of taken it by force and said, I'm driving you in. And we realized that we didn't ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And it made all the difference in the world. And we felt very isolated, but that was self-isolation. And that's, I do believe that most people have a problem kind of reaching out, especially in hard times or in things that are traumatic or deal with health. They all have a hard time reaching out. The other thing that I've found about that is, as I've gotten further along in my studies and walking this path, I ask for help often. I love collaborations. Now, the three of us collaborate as well as Gail, and it makes for a dynamic product that people, I hope, can watch, can listen to, can enjoy. Whereas if there's only one voice, it's all just one voice. In the books that we've written in that are collaborations, there were 25 voices, 23 voices, 20 voices. To be able to say a similar thing, because those books are based around a concept, a precept, but they all have different stories, different ways of saying the same thing. And it allows somebody to pick up that book and they're going to be touched by one of those stories. They are going to really zone in on one of those, particularly because it speaks to them. Now, I'm hoping that as we go along with all of these interviews that we do of each other, kind of what we do, and all the thoughts that we put forward, that people will pick up something that one of us says, that people will take it into themselves, and it allows them to take the next step, however big or however small that is. And in doing that, it's the small steps, as I said before, that allow us to really come forward and with intention. The second point of this is about quiet. I found that in the quiet spaces is when we hear the voices that we need to hear. When we're busy, we have that voice that says, okay, we got a list to do. Okay, I got to go shopping. I got to go to the drugstore. I got to go to here. I got to go there. That's not the voice I'm talking about. I'm talking about the voice that comes out of here, comes out of your heart. It's your soul speak, if you will. To be able to understand what it is you truly need. We all want things, right? We see things, we might want them. And as I get older, I find I want less and less. But it's what we're guided to do when we hear those voices that are around us that guide us to what our true path is, who we really are. And divine timing, as you said, Sarah, comes into play. I'm not a patient man, but I've learned patience because I have to take the breath and allow. And when you work at something, eventually the right thing comes along, but you have to be in the right place in order to do that. If the opportunity comes along and you can't, because of work or family or play or whatever you're doing, doesn't align with it, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So you have to be ready for it. And that's where all the small steps come in.
Well, there's another good thing about small steps that I was thinking about as you were talking about it. If I take a small step and then I discover that maybe that doesn't work, it's easier to take a step back. Whereas if I try to take a giant leap forward, and it doesn't work, oh my God, how much do I have to undo to get back to my starting point and to repair whatever damage I've done? Yeah, that's a pretty powerful reminder. So thank you for that. I like the idea of small steps. Yeah, a lot of good reasons for using it.
Thank you.
Thinking about asking for help, and sort of people don't like to ask for help, but some people don't like to ask for help because they don't think they're worthy of it. Why would anybody want to help me? And I know I was in that place, being a people pleaser. And I remember with my sort of friend Trevor, and this is a number of years ago, before we even moved into this house, and we've been here 19 years now. And I sort of said to him one day when we were out for a walk, and I sort of said, I'd like to ask you sort of for a bit of help or sort of something, but if you can't do it or don't want to do it, you can just say no. And he tore me off a strip for that. And it was just like, Sarah, ask. If I can, I will. If I can't, I'll say no. but actually you're insulting me by saying what you've just said. And it was just like, okay. So I asked, he said, yeah, of course I can do that. I think it was a lift somewhere or something. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was. And at the same time, sort of, I don't know whether it was that day, the following day, I've got multiple decks of oracle cards. And I pulled a card, and that card said, let yourself receive. You know, you get pleasure from giving to others and supporting others and helping others. Let others have that pleasure of helping and supporting you. And it was just like, and this all came sort of within again, it's that divine timing. It was that confirmation of what he had said. But it's very difficult for those of us who've been people pleasers for so many years, with the insecurities that we've had about ourselves, thinking we're unworthy, unlovable, all the rest of those things, to actually be able to step into that confidence of, I can ask a question. If the answer is no, it's because they're not meant to support in that way. I've either got to be able to do it myself, or there's someone else, or I'm not meant to do it at all. So there are always reasons for a no. But what is really important is, if somebody asks you and you know the answer is going to be no, or you really want to say no for whatever reason, and you don't have to give the reason, you must be honest and say it as quickly as possible, so that they then have, how many of us say yes, wish we hadn't, and how many of those people then let you down because they were never going to do it in the first place, but they wouldn't tell you. They hadn't got the courage to say no. So we have to have the courage to say it, but we also have to have the confidence to be able to hear it. And as you said, I think it was David, it's not because they don't care about us, they don't want to support us when they can, but if it doesn't resonate, or the timing's not right, or whatever, it's really important. And that is around intention, that is around supporting ourselves, having the intention that, yes, we can ask, but do you know what? We're going to be guided down another path.
Right. Yeah. And just to be clear here, when someone says no to you, it doesn't mean he or she doesn't like you. On the other hand, it's quite possible they don't like you. So what? You know, if someone doesn't like you, that's their issue, not yours. You know, it's like, I don't like eggs. Do eggs get insulted because I don't like them? No, they don't. They just say, well, good luck then, have a good life, you know, and then off they go and make someone else happy. So why do we get so sensitive and so tender about that? Oh, you know, he doesn't like me. You know, we go through that. Oh my God. I did that myself when I was a kid. I remember this so many times. How embarrassing now that I think about it. But the truth is, people will like you or they won't like you, and that's their choice, you know? So don't take it personally. Each of us has our own preferences. Each of us has, you know, things that we like, things that we don't like. Maybe we don't like somebody's bent nose and we don't know why. Maybe it's just because that bent nose reminds me of somebody else in my life who hurt me because, you know, had a bent nose. All right, maybe there's a little work for me to do there to figure out what that's all about. But the fact that I don't like somebody with a bent nose doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with that other person. Right? So have a compassion, gentleness, and love for yourself. That's a big part of experience and expressing the truth of who you really are. Allowing yourself to just be with whatever is true for you. That's what I think, and for me, it's an important piece of wisdom. So
Inspired
intention.
intention.
Do what you like with it.
Yeah, inspired intention. Comes back to a couple things. That's understanding yourself. and finding what brings you joy. How many people have a job that they just absolutely detest, but they're putting time in to make money to be able to live? How many?
They want the pension or the 401k.
Oh Lord, yeah, or the health insurance, or whatever it is that they feel that they need. In talking and trying to mentor younger people, I asked them, what intrigues you? I was having this discussion with my 18-year-old grandson. I said, what brings you joy? What really turns on those creative juices? Now he's a star football player. He's a captain of the basketball team. He's probably one of the kindest, nicest kids I know. Has always been a leader from the time he was 7 years old on. He's lauded for his playing in football in the newspapers, and he's got colleges asking him. And he looked at me and he said, I'm not going to play college football. And I was shocked because he generally was the best player on the field whenever he took the field. And I never questioned the why of it. And I just said, what do you want to do? He says, I want to concentrate in college. I don't want to play football because everybody I've talked to says that it becomes your life and that going to school is secondary. And I just looked at him like, how grown up is that? He wants to go for
Exactly.
business.
Yeah.
He wants to go for business. He wants to be able to spend his time in studies rather than in athletics. He says, look, I'm too small. I'll never play pro football. And while I enjoy football, it was just playing. He said, but I want to do well in life. And for an 18-year-old, I'm thinking to myself, my God, he's so much more mature than I ever was at that age.
Isn't that a nice feeling?
It is an absolutely wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
And I told him that anything he needed to do in order to further his goals in college, I am there for him. I did not berate him because, my God, you're going to throw away 4 years because you don't want to play college. What's wrong with you? Now I've heard that from friends of his, and he's heard it, but it's not what's close to his heart.
Right.
So inspired intention. This year, a month ago, I got married. And next week, I retire from full-time employment. And all of this, everybody talks about coming in the first of the year. And what about the word of the day, the word of the year? What are you going to use? And I was thinking transition, because everything in my life is really kind of transitioning. And it's something that I can work with. Not a year, maybe 2 or 3 months, transitioning, getting my feet on the ground, understanding what I'm going to do when I retire, when I don't have to get up to work at 5 o'clock for work every day. How is that going to look for me? And what do I want to do? So I've done a lot of quiet meditation on how does that look? What does it look like? And guess what? I can change it every day if I want to. It doesn't have to look the same. And so it's really inspiring for me to be able to have that freedom, to be able to recreate my life, recreate my day, recreate everything that I'm doing, and put the time into what I truly, truly want to do. And that is a lot of this work. I love doing this work. I love doing the one-on-one. I love doing the teaching. I love doing the interviews. I love doing the writing.
That's great.
Because it's what I was meant to do. When I was 18 years old, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a poet. I wanted to do all of that. Life kind of took me round and about. I was 25, had 3 kids, 3 jobs, didn't know which way was up, and didn't know how I would get enough sleep through the course of the day. But now I'm back to my best 18-year-old self and living that life and loving absolutely every minute of it.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Scott. My son, Kevin, my oldest son, he was a very, very talented hockey player. And I remember at one point he was talking about joining the NHL, the National Hockey League, and I thought, okay, let's see what happens. It never actually happened. You know, he had other things that were calling to him, and I didn't say one way or the other. You know, I think it's great that you like to play hockey. I said, I think you have a beautiful heart and a beautiful mind, and I think if you play hockey full time, a lot of that's going to atrophy. I said, is that what you want? I mean, you may be able to continue writing and doing all the other things you like to do while playing hockey, but I suspect that's going to take up a lot of your time. So you have to, I told him, check in here, see what's true for you. Well, he ended up wandering around in the desert for quite a while, but I think he's finally found himself now, and he's very much, he loves writing. He absolutely loves it, and he is brilliant at it. He's really one of the best writers I know. It's just amazing. So yeah, and he's a very, very spiritual guy too. That's another thing that I really love about my son, Kevin. He's just so deeply spiritual and constantly looking to bring forth his best self. And that's the kind of energy I think we're talking about here. Really knowing the truth of who we are, not being afraid to step into that, and being willing to let people see it for what it is. You know, they can like it or not like it, as I said, that's irrelevant, but at least they get to see it. And, you know, Sarah, you were talking about this problem with worthiness and stuff. And I think a lot of people will see someone like Kevin and say, wow, he's an amazing guy, but, you know, I'm not like that. I'm not worthy to be that way. And that's such a subtle, deep belief system that we have, and often tied to some kind of a religious structure. And Christianity, I know, is like that. Lord, I am not worthy to receive your, or something like that. People say in their prayers, and I'm thinking, why are you praying if you're not worthy to receive it? You know, it makes no sense to me. Anyway, so yeah, so thank you, Scott. That was a nice, beautiful share. I really liked it. Yeah.
Going back, an element for what you're both saying, but David, I know you will have heard Bo Eason speak at the Messenger Summit in 2012 in San Diego, and listening to him, because he became was it an NFL player or something?
Right, he was an NFL safety.
Yeah, but
like one of the best in the league.
Absolutely. But then his whole story, and he wrote The Run to the Litter. You know,
That's
I
right.
don't know anything about sport in the UK, let alone in the USA, but listening to Bo Eason and the fact that he wrote this book that he turned into a one-man play. And it was about, if that is what you wish to do, you make it happen. And it was The Run to the Litter, because actually, in comparison to a lot of them, he was quite little. You know, so
right. Yeah, he was only 6 feet tall.
Yeah, exactly.
6 feet tall and 180 pounds or something like that.
Oh, but what is your choice? What is your passion? And the passion is about, it's coming from the heart, because the heart is being guided by the soul. That's the way I view it.
Right.
So what is your passion? But also, you know, he came to the end of being able to do that, and then but he was still able to live that aspect by writing, and then continue to share that through the thing, obviously coming and being a speaker and all the things that he does now.
Right.
Life moves us on. You know, we start with one thing, and that is going to guide us elsewhere. So it's not a matter of, oh, this year I am going to write a book, I'm going to get it published, and I'm going to be a #1 bestseller. Doesn't matter whether it's a #1 bestseller. Are you going to complete that book? Or there may be, for a lot of authors, and I don't know about you two, but I got the sense from the Gifts of Wisdom book that many people, there was a healing journey within the writing of their story within that book. And I'm fairly certain that a lot of people have that with these multi-author books, that little story, but it's such a powerful part of who you are and sort of what you have gone through. And so there are going to be things that we do that they might absolutely kick us outside our comfort zone. But that is very much about helping us become aware of aspects within ourselves that probably need looking at and working on and healing. So our intention can start as one thing, we think, but actually is it guiding us towards something that is way more important to us than we realize, that helps us on a much, I know you talked about small steps, but supports us on that much bigger step to that healing, that whatever within ourselves. So our intention is take one intention at a time and give it the space for you to work on. Give it the space for there to be the gaps, the pauses, the transition time. All, and how many different words can we find for all of these things? Give ourselves, I have a set date for something. It's going to be what it's going to be. If I manage to make it, great. If I don't, but I'm going to aim for that, and I'm asking the universe's support with it because I feel they're guiding it. Where am I going to go after that? Who knows? One thing at a time. So it's like your small steps, Scott.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. Now that thing might be quite big, so take the small steps within it.
Right.
But where is each thing leading you? And hopefully it's actually leading you back to yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Scott, did you want to respond?
I'm sorry, I was just so taken with what she was saying. Amazingly well said, my dear Sarah. It's inspiration. Where do we get it? Where does it come from? I had a phone call yesterday with one of the gentlemen that was in the book where I met you, David, and that Transcendent Men. And he called me to thank me, and I said, "Why?" He said, "Because of a story you did. I did a piece called If I Had a Hammer, where I talked about building a fort and a tree fort in the backyard, and how I couldn't do it myself, and everybody came in the neighborhood came and they said, 'Hey, I've got some wood, and hey, I've got some nails, and hey, I've got a hammer,' and we built it, and it built and it went higher, and over the years it went higher, so that we could stand on the top floor and we looked over the houses, and it changed perspective." And I told that story. And with that, he was in a writers group, and he wrote a story, changed it around, but used that as the basis. And he is getting now, the story is going to be published with one of Laura's children's books. It's for a 12-year-old, and he wrote the story, and he based it on the work that I had done, but he wanted to say thank you. And in it, one of the characters is the older man, and he said, "Tell me what your dad's name is." I said, "Ken." He said, I'd like to name the dad Mr. Ken, after your dad. I want to pay homage to you and your dad. My dad has since passed." And where do we get inspiration? I didn't do that to any, when I did the original 2 years ago, did the original session, I never thought it would inspire something like that. And he's one of the nicest men, Guy Kilchrist. And he said, "We have authors all over the world for this book. That story you told about what happened in your backyard is now going to be all over the world." So I want to just let people who are listening, you never know the ripple effect of what you do.
Right. Yep.
This was 2 years ago that this happened, and it's now coming to fruition unexpectedly. I had nothing to do with it other than doing the original. I put the pebble in the pond, and then it comes out the other side bigger. All of us do that on a daily basis, and we don't even realize it. I try intentionally to do one good deed a day. What is that? Holding a door open, helping somebody with their groceries. I've paid for somebody's coffee behind me. I've done all of those things, small things,
Right.
saying thank you, sending a text to somebody who had an anniversary, getting a phone call to somebody who I knew was going through a tough time. Something to touch and throwing love at it, I guess. We've used that term a couple times before, but
Right.
I find that throwing love at people and at life in that way changes the connections we have, but also it ripples in the right way because it's made with intention and unconditional love and compassion. And if we spread that out, who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. We may get some sense of the impact that we have on other people when we get feedback in this lifetime. But a lot of what we do in life is going to have ripple effects that go way beyond our lifetime, you know?
Mm.
And, I'm thinking right now of that amazing, I think one of the best movies ever made, It's a Wonderful Life. It was written as a Christmas movie, but it really is a movie about, it could happen any time of the year. Just imagine going through the experience that George went through of discovering just how much impact you've had on other people's lives before you actually die. That's really what that story is about, and it is so beautiful. I swear, I'm feeling tears coming up now just thinking about it. I watched it again a couple of weeks ago. I try to watch it every year because it's just that good a story. It's got some corny stuff in it. What movie doesn't? But that's what's beautiful about it. It's just people being people, and that's what I love about it. So to just take what you said a little bit further, Scott, I want people to get from this that don't ever imagine that you have no impact on the world. Not for 1 second. The impact that you do have is way, way, way bigger than you can possibly imagine. So here's the invitation. You're going to have an impact on the world. So why not choose the kind of impact you are going to have? And let that impact come from a place of unconditional love, of the truth of who you really are, rather than from some false image that you want to present to the world in order to get approval or somebody to like you or somebody to laugh at your joke or something like that. That's all just posturing. That's not who you really are. So think about, how do I bring my real self into every experience and just come from a place of love? How do I do that? We had an episode probably last year by now, maybe longer than a year ago. What would love do now? And that's something for you to go back and look at and just ask yourself that question. In any moment, what would love do right now? It's a great way to bring inspired action into all of your behaviors.
Life's a funny thing, isn't it, for all of us? And we can find humor in it. And I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Is find humor in life. And it's just simple, silly little things. You put your keys down and you can't find them. And, some people say, now that's the angels, just messing with you, because they have a sense of humor. It's allow yourself to find the humor. But I also think about that. Why can't I find my keys? I always put them in the same place. Maybe you're being stopped from being somewhere at a wrong time. When I'm in a hurry, but like the traffic lights go red, and it's thinking, and I've always asked for safe journeys. Safe is always my priority with the angels, but it's thinking about that. But it's swift, and obviously, if I've got to get somewhere, but the lights go red, and it's just like, okay, there are three things here. Somebody requires that green light more than I do. I'm being kept safe. It's not actually safe for me to be on that section of road at this precise moment in time. They're clearing the road in front of me. How many times do you let people pull out in front of you and suddenly they're not there? It was just like, hang on, I let somebody pull out, but they've gone. And especially when I'm in a hurry, I will let people out. I try to do it a lot of the time anyway, but so much can happen in our lives. Find the joy in it, find the humor in it, find the fun and the laughter in your life. Because that's what life is about. It's not about all the serious stuff. Yes, we have our intentions, but shouldn't one of those intentions be to enjoy our lives? And then put that inspired action into making sure we do things that we enjoy to put that passion into our life.
Right. I love that idea, Sarah. And in fact, you remind me of, excuse me, one of my friends did an episode of Life Mastery TV, actually quite a while ago now. And her name is Linda Shively, and she is a yoga or a laughter yoga instructor. And she's got this absolutely great idea that, we should be laughing all the time. And I agree with that sentiment. And so here's a little practice you can do. Just take 5 minutes out of your day in a quiet place, wherever, so you're not gonna worry about what anybody who sees you, and just sit down and start laughing. And try and do sustained laughter for 5 minutes. I mean, first of all, if you haven't done this before, you're going to find it difficult, because laughing for a sustained amount of time is difficult, and it takes a lot out of you. So work your way up and get to that point where you're just laughing for 5 minutes. And just notice how the endorphins pick up in your body and how much better you feel when it's all over. It is an amazing practice. I really encourage people. And, good hearty belly laughs, Get into it, baby. Come on. Okay, I don't think I can do that very much right now, but you get the point. It's not that hard. And I already feel better just for that, 10 seconds of laughter that I just did. It's great. I highly recommend it. And if you're not inspired after laughing, well, maybe you're dead. I don't know.
And no one laughs or smiles more than Miss Sarah. And having been with her for so many hours, she is a bright light, and truly lives that. I was in the market the other day, and I was kind of singing along with the muzak. Of course, the muzak is what we thought was inspirational music back when we were younger, but now it's muzak, right? They just play it all the time. So I'm just kind of singing along with it, and I'm smiling at people, and they're just kind of looking at me. Okay, what's up with him? And I'd make a comment, or a little kid was in the produce section, and he throws his toy down. Mother picks it up, immediately throws it down again, and she's frustrated. So I picked it up. I said, "Thank you," and the little boy looked at me. Well, you don't want this toy, so I can play with it? And the mother's just smiling, and he goes, would you like it back? I said, well, I think you might want to keep it then. And so he put it back in his hand, and his mother looked at me and said, thank you. So it's those small interactions, no matter where you are, that give life meaning. It gives life a purpose. Why are we here? Is it to just kind of trudge through the day and or watch the tube for 12 hours a day? Or, Lord, is that why we're here? No, we're here to engage. We are here to just live life. Why I
agree.
travel all the time. Why I travel all the time. Because I want to see how other people live. And I get inspired by what they show me. They live their lives are very different from mine, but you know what? There's no right way to live. But it shows me different ways that people can be happy with their lives. And that for me is the inspiration to be able to connect with all of these people.
You just made me think of something here, Scott. You ever seen one of these flash mob things where people go into a
Yeah.
mall or something? And I remember I think this year at some mall, I don't know where it was, these people just spontaneously started doing, I think it was Handel's Messiah or something like that, or Hallelujah or something. And there must have
Hallelujah,
been
of course.
100 people who were part of this thing, where they were sitting down having meals or whatever. And then one person just stood up and started singing. And of course, there's lots of chitter chatter. People are kind of doing their thing. And slowly they start noticing there's one person singing. Then there's a second person singing. There's a third person. Before you know it, there's a whole massive choir singing this incredibly beautiful piece of music. And some of them brought out, violins and, other kinds of instruments. Very, very, very inspiring. Well, we don't have to be super fantastic singers to do this. We could create a flash mob with like 3 or 4 people and go into a mall and just start laughing. Separate ourselves out. Just have one person start by, just pointing at something like a statue or a tree or something and just start laughing at it. And everybody's kind of, what is going on? And then someone else on the other side of the mall starts doing the same thing, pointing at something different. And before you know it, everybody will be laughing. Talk about bringing some joy to the world.
A laugh flash mob. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we could create something like that. That could be fun.
Heck,
Sarah, you got to come and do it with me.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, you've got to come and visit me in Mount Shasta. I said, I will get back to the States one day.
Right, yeah. All right, so Sarah, I know you got to get going here and you've got another program going. So would you like to close with some final words before I shut down the recording?
How about some light language words? Then none of us know what I'm saying, including me. Hintoi chistini katanta aishi. Und takanai inan tara oshtnanai tama. Imtai ken te ernoi ik ta ai istumai pa. Serotoi shi nakate I taramanete etikiti. Lito e na a she antikiamote I. Si otst ta an ni ikti a stargonai cha a mai. Terena ka an cheamate I a. Lest toi chente ke matata. Namaste.
Thank you, Sarah. I know you got to go, so I will say goodbye now, and we'll see you, in a little while.
I'll see you shortly. Take care, folks.
Scott, did you have any final words you wanted to say before I close out?
I was going to say what she said, but no, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Honestly, for those who are watching, please take inspired intention to heart. It sounds like a simple thing, but inspiration comes from here, and intention comes from waking up every day and taking the small steps.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. I appreciate that. And everyone who's watching the recording, I just want to say thank you for being here. I love doing this. These soul empowerment episodes are so uplifting and inspiring for me, which is one of the reasons that I do them. They help keep me going for my month and help me thinking more about how many more ways are there for me to show up as who I really am. And ultimately, I think that's what we all really want to do. So you do your part to take inspired action in your life, and I'll do my part to take inspired action in my life. And before we know it, we're going to have a beautiful and amazing world. So thank you for being here. Remember, you can watch recordings of this and every other episode on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. We'll see you next time on Soul Empowerment. Bye-bye.